I'm a book storyteller. This is my first video. Right now, I have no audience, but I still want to spend the next 10 years doing one thing, telling you the stories behind the books that are actually worth reading, and maybe along the way, keeping you company through those nights when you feel like no one really understands what you're carrying. So today is the first video, and maybe it is also the first day that you and I begin to become a little better together. Let me ask you something. How far does a person have to be pushed before he starts believing he has the right to decide who deserves to live and who deserves to die? Imagine a young man so poor he is barely surviving. Now imagine that he meets an old pawnbroker who makes her living off other people's desperation. She takes advantage of the poor, squeezes them for interest, and profits from misery. If that young man kills her, takes her money, and uses it to save better people. Is that murder or is it justice? That is the dangerous question at the center of Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. A lot of people hear that title and assume this is simply a crime novel. A man kills someone, the police investigate, the murderer gets caught. But if you actually stay with this book, you realize the terrifying part is not how the crime is committed. It is not even how the police close in. The terrifying part is watching a man walk toward the edge of a cliff, fully aware that he is walking toward disaster and still whisper to himself, step by step, that he has a reason to keep going. Crime and Punishment is not really about a man commits murder and then gets punished. That lesson is too simple. What this novel really asks is this: what happens when poverty, shame, pride, and pain push a person so far that he builds a theory to justify the thing he secretly wants to do? And then, once that theory exists, what happens when he lets it carry him all the way into hell? The most brutal part is this: Raskolnikov's first real target is not the old pawnbroker. What he wants to kill, more than anything, is the version of himself that feels poor, powerless, humiliated, weak, and looked down on. The story takes place in 19th century St. Petersburg, Russia. At that time, Russia was changing violently. The old social order was cracking. New money and new urban life were growing fast, but not gently. Nobles still lived with status. Merchants were building fortunes, but the poor were being crushed into the cracks of the city. Like dust in the walls, no one truly cared how they lived. No one asked whether they could keep living at all. In this book, St. Petersburg is not a beautiful postcard city. It is humid, crowded, overheated, and suffocating. The streets are filled with drunk men, beggars, sick people, and poor souls wandering around like ghosts. The cramped apartments, dark staircases, peeling wallpaper, and noisy taverns form a giant net, trapping everyone who has nowhere else to go, and Raskolnikov lives inside that net. He is a former law student. He is young, intelligent, and by all appearances, someone who should have had a future. In a normal life, he would finish school, find a decent job, support his mother, protect his sister, and slowly build a modest but respectable life. But life does not give him that version. His father is dead. His family has no savings. He cannot pay tuition, so he drops out of school to survive. He does a little tutoring here and there, but it is nowhere near enough. Most of the time, he lives on money. His mother and sister scrape together by denying themselves almost everything. Try to imagine that feeling. You're a young man with ambition and pride. You believe you have a mind that could matter, but every morning you wake up to rent, hunger, worn out clothes, unpaid debts, and the knowledge that your family is sacrificing for you while you can barely stand up straight. Other people talk about the future. You're wondering whether you can eat today. Other people talk about ideals. You're afraid to walk past your landlady's door because she may ask for the money you owe her. His room is under the roof, and it is so small that it feels less like a room than a coffin. The wallpaper is yellow and peeling. The furniture is broken. The couch is both his bed and the corner where he hides from the world, and even this miserable space is more than he can afford. Every time he goes downstairs, he has to pass the landlady's kitchen. The door is often open, like an eye watching him. He is afraid she will demand the rent, afraid someone will ask about the debt, afraid someone will see just how desperate he has become. So he slips past like a cat, trying not to make a sound. That is one of the cruelest things about poverty. It is not only hunger, it is not only cold, it is the shame that follows you everywhere. You have not committed a crime, but you feel like a criminal. You have not harmed anyone, but life has already put you on trial. Long-term poverty and isolation make Raskolnikov more sensitive, more unstable, and more dangerous. He spends hours alone in his room, staring into nothing, muttering to himself, circling the same question again and again: why is the world arranged this way? Why are some people born into money, status, and dignity? Why do stupid, cruel people get to control other people's lives? Why does someone like him, someone with intelligence and ambition, have to rot in a coffin-sized room, unable even to protect his mother and sister? When a person suffers for long enough, the first question is usually, why me? But if that question goes unanswered for too long, it can turn into something far more dangerous. Why should I obey the rules of a world like this? And that is where the terrible idea begins to take shape in his mind. Raskolnikov starts to believe that humanity is divided into two categories. The first category is ordinary people. They are weak, conventional, obedient, and built to follow the existing order. They live by rules that others created. They repeat the paths others have already walked. They endure whatever fate gives them. The second category is extraordinary people. These are people with vision, courage, and the ability to change history. They are not born merely to obey the rules, they are born to create new ones. And if their goal is great enough, if history truly demands it, then they may have the right to step over moral and legal boundaries. They may even have the right to sacrifice other lives. He thinks of Napoleon, he thinks of famous conquerors and world-changing figures. History is full of people who caused oceans of bloodshed and were still remembered as great. If they could walk over bodies and become heroes, then why could he not step over one useless life for a higher purpose? Hearing it stated plainly, it sounds insane. But when people are desperate, one of the things they do best is dress insanity up as truth. Raskolnikov does not think he is falling. He thinks he is waking up. He takes all his resentment, shame, rage, and helplessness and stuffs it into this theory. If the theory is true, then he is not simply a failed, starving student. He is a powerful man temporarily buried by circumstances. And soon, that theory needs a test subject. That subject is Alyona Ivanovna, the old pawnbroker. Alyona is elderly, sickly, sharp, greedy, and cruel. She makes money from poor people's desperation. When someone has nowhere else to turn, they bring her a watch, a ring, a coat, a little piece of their life, and she undervalues it brutally. She charges high interest. If the pledge expires by even one day, she is ready to sell the item and profit from the misery. To the poor, she is not just an old woman, she is a parasite. She has a half-sister named Lizaveta. Lizaveta is gentle, submissive, and almost painfully defenseless. Alyona bullies her constantly. Lizaveta cooks, washes, sews, works outside the house, and gives everything she earns to her sister. Yet in Alyona's will, Lizaveta receives nothing. The more Raskolnikov thinks about Alyona, the more he convinces himself that her life has no value. She helps no one. She hurts many people. Her money could save families. It could let him return to school. It could rescue his mother and sister from humiliation. But instead, the money sits locked away in boxes, and in the end, it may be donated to some religious purpose for the sake of her own soul. So he begins to use a cold kind of arithmetic to persuade himself, kill one bad person, take her money, and save many good people. Is that really evil? Exchange one death for 10 lives, 100 lives. Is that not a greater good? If he uses the money to finish his education, become useful, and help others who are suffering, then can one small crime not be outweighed by all the good that follows? But once a person starts calculating human life this way, evil is already standing at the door. To test the idea, he takes his father's old watch and goes to Alyona's apartment, pretending he wants to pawn it. It is a rehearsal. When Alyona opens the door, her eyes are full of suspicion. Her hair is slick with grease, an old scarf is wrapped around her neck. She is thin, sharp, and unpleasant. She handles the watch with contempt. This is Raskolnikov's father's keepsake, but she offers almost nothing for it and deducts interest in advance. On the surface, he argues with her over the price, but inside, he is watching everything. Where is the door? Where is the cabinet? Where is the bed? Where does she keep the keys? Is Lizaveta home? He stores every detail. In that moment, he is no longer just a poor student. He is a man rehearsing a crime, disgusted by his own thoughts, and yet unable to stop thinking them. When he leaves the apartment, he is almost physically drained. The sounds of the street blur around him. People brush past him, but he walks like a drunk man. His hatred of Alyona has reached a peak, but at the same time, guilt rises inside him like sickness. To calm himself, he goes into a tavern, and there he meets Marmeladov. Marmeladov is a former government clerk, and he is a man completely broken by life. He is drunk, poor, filthy, and painfully aware of his own failure. He begins talking to Raskolnikov and tells him that his family is almost destroyed. His wife, Katerina Ivanovna, is sick. There are children at home. He lost his job because of drinking. The family has no income. And the most heartbreaking part is his daughter, Sonia, to keep the family alive. Sonia has been forced into prostitution. A father should barely be able to speak such a thing out loud. But Marmeladov speaks because he is suffering, he is ashamed and guilty, but he is also using confession to punish himself. He knows he is a disaster to his family, and still he does not have the strength to change. He says something strange and unforgettable. Poverty is not a sin, but destitution is a sin. At first, that sounds absurd. Poverty itself is not a moral failure, but when you're so poor, you have no choices. So poor, you cannot protect your dignity. So poor, the people who love you have to destroy themselves just to keep you alive. You begin to feel as if your very existence is guilty. Raskolnikov is shaken. He does not just see a drunk man. He sees another human being crushed by the same machine. When he leaves, he quietly gives Marmeladov's family almost all the money he has. The detail matters. Raskolnikov is not a man without compassion. In fact, the opposite is true. He is almost too sensitive. He feels other people suffering deeply. He is wounded by it. But because he cannot bear his own helplessness, compassion curdles into rage. The next day, he receives a letter from his mother. That letter cuts straight into him. His mother writes that his sister, Dunya, had been working as a governess in the house of a landowner named Svidrigailov. Svidrigailov became obsessed with her. He pursued her, pressured her, and tried to seduce her. Even worse, his wife believed Dunya had tempted him, so she publicly humiliated Dunya and made her suffer. Eventually, the truth came out, but Dunya's reputation had already been damaged. Now, Dunya has agreed to marry a man named Lucian, a government official with money and status. On paper, Lucian looks like salvation. He is willing to marry Dunya. He may also help Raskolnikov finish his education. Raskolnikov's mother writes carefully, almost pleading with him to accept the marriage, while also trying to convince herself that all of this is good news, but Raskolnikov sees the truth immediately. Lucian is not marrying Dunya out of love. He wants a poor wife because a poor wife is easier to make grateful. A woman who has suffered and has nowhere to go may treat her husband as a savior. She may obey him more easily. She may be easier to control. Raskolnikov understands in an instant his sister is trading her life for his future, and that is worse than poverty. A man can sometimes endure his own suffering. What he cannot endure is knowing that the people he loves are being humiliated for his sake. His anger and shame explode. He cannot accept Dunya marrying a false, calculating man, and he cannot accept that he has no power to stop it. So the murder idea becomes firmer. He needs money. He needs to change everything quickly. He needs to prove he is not a useless man watching his family sacrifice themselves. More than anything, he needs to prove he is not ordinary. Then, almost as if fate itself is participating, an opportunity appears. Raskolnikov overhears Lizaveta talking with a merchant. He learns that the next evening at 7 o'clock, Lizaveta will not be home. That means Alyona will be alone. The timing is so perfect that it feels like destiny opening a door. That night, Raskolnikov barely sleeps. He lies in bed, his mind turning over and over. He thinks of his mother, his sister, the old pawnbroker, his theory. One moment he feels he must do it. The next, fear crushes his chest. A truly terrifying crime is rarely committed in a single instant. It happens first in the mind again and again until the person becomes used to the thought. By the time the body acts, the mind has already rehearsed the crime 100 times. The next day, he prepares. He sews a loop inside his coat to hold the axe. He wraps a piece of wood to make it look like another pawned object. Then, when no one is looking, he takes an axe from the building the moment he hides the axe inside his coat and walks out the door. He is no longer free, not because the law has caught him, because the thought has caught him. He walks to Alyona's building. The streets are full of people, but he feels separated from everyone as if a fog stands between him and the world. He tries to appear calm, but his mind is chaotic. He thinks random thoughts like whether the city should have fountains. Then he insults himself for thinking such nonsense. That chaos is real. When people are under extreme stress, the mind often grabs onto irrelevant details because it cannot look directly at the horror in front of it. He reaches Alyona's door and rings the bell. She opens it only a crack, staring at him suspiciously. He says he has brought another item to pawn. She lets him in, takes the wrapped object, turns toward the window, and begins trying to untie the knot. She complains that he tied it too tightly. And in that instant, Raskolnikov knows there's no turning back. He pulls out the axe and strikes her head. She screams once and falls. He strikes again. Soon the room is silent. The first murder is done, but the real horror is not the moment the axe falls. It is what happens after. He does not become the calm, fearless, superior man he imagined. He does not become Napoleon. He becomes mechanical, confused, and terrified. He searches Alyona's body for keys. He runs into the bedroom. He opens drawers and boxes. He stuffs chains, earrings, bracelets, and pawn trinkets into his pockets without even knowing what they are worth. The grand plan to take money and transform his life collapses into panic. He is not a great man executing a historical mission. He is a frightened thief stumbling through a murder scene. Then he hears footsteps. Lizaveta has come home. She enters holding a bundle, sees the body on the floor, and freezes. Her face turns white. She cannot even scream. Raskolnikov freezes too. In that second, his entire theory shatters. If he kills Alyona, he can still lie to himself. She was cruel. She exploited people. Her death could serve a purpose. But Lizaveta, what did she do? She is also poor. She is also a victim. She is gentle, defenseless, and harmless. She is exactly the kind of person his theory claimed to protect, but she has seen him, so he raises the axe and kills her too. The second murder has no theory behind it, no justice, no higher purpose, only fear, only the need to silence a witness. That blow is Raskolnikov's true judgment. From that moment on, he can no longer pretend he is a man removing one parasite for the good of humanity. He is a murderer. He washes his hands and the axe in a panic, escapes the apartment, returns home almost insane, puts the axe back, hides the stolen items in a hole behind the wall, and collapses on his couch. There is no triumph, no relief, no glorious sense that he has proven himself extraordinary. There's only fear in the days that follow. He becomes feverish, delirious, and haunted. He falls in and out of sleep. He thinks people are coming to arrest him. He imagines the room full of strangers. He hears strange sounds. At one point, he believes someone downstairs is beating the landlady, but Nastasia, the maid, tells him no one was beaten. "It is the blood in you." She says that line is terrifying, not someone else's blood, his blood. The crime has entered his body, it has become fever, hallucination, and dread. Soon he receives a summons to the police station. He is convinced he has been found out, he trembles as he goes in, but once he arrives, he learns the summons is only about his unpaid debt to the landlady. For a moment, he is safe. Then, just as he is about to leave, the officers start discussing the murder of the old pawnbroker. Raskolnikov listens. And then he faints. That faint nearly exposes him, but the police have no proof. By chance, 2 Peters had been near the crime scene, and one of them, Nikolai, becomes a suspect. Legally, Raskolnikov is safe for now. Spiritually, he has already been sentenced. He takes the stolen items out of the wall and considers throwing them into the river, but he is afraid of being seen. Finally, he buries them under a stone in a courtyard. Notice this, he barely uses any of the stolen goods. He killed for money, or so he claimed, but once he has the money, he cannot even look at it. This is where Dostoevsky is brilliant. Raskolnikov proves, without meaning to, that he did not kill for money, at least not only for money. What he really wanted was to test whether he could cross the line. And once he crosses it, he does not find freedom on the other side, he finds hell. While he is sick, one person keeps taking care of him, Razumikin. Razumikin is also a poor student, but he is nothing like Raskolnikov, he suffers too, but he does not turn suffering into hatred. He is warm, honest, generous, and practical. When he learns Raskolnikov is ill, he comes immediately, he brings food, he finds a doctor, he helps with debt. He even buys him new clothes. Razumikin represents another possible life for Raskolnikov, just as poor, just as low in society, but not swallowed by darkness. Standing in sharp contrast to Razumikin is Lushin. When Lushin first visits Raskolnikov, he tries to appear respectable and generous. He wants to build a relationship with his future brother-in-law, but he cannot hide his arrogance. His logic of marriage is cold and ugly. Marry a poor woman because she will be grateful, dependent, and easier to dominate. Raskolnikov already hates him, so he exposes him directly. He basically tells Lushin, what you like most about Dunya is that she is poor. That way you can stand above her forever and make sure she never forgets what you did for her. Lushin is humiliated and leaves, but this conflict is only beginning soon. Raskolnikov's mother and sister arrive in St. Petersburg. His mother nearly breaks when she sees him thin, pale, sick, and dressed in rags. She is full of love and guilt. Dunya cares for him too, but Raskolnikov can no longer truly receive their love because he is not the same person. Love should comfort us, but for a guilty person, love can become torture. The more they love him, the more unworthy he feels. The closer they come, the more terrified he becomes that they will see the truth. Almost immediately, he tells Dunya to reject Lushin. He says, "It is either him or me on the surface." That sounds controlling. Underneath it is panic, shame, and a desperate desire to protect her. He cannot save himself, but he still wants to save his sister. What he does not yet understand is that he himself has become the most dangerous person in the family. Around this time, Sonia comes to his room for the first time. She comes to invite him to Marmeladov's funeral meal. When she sees the terrible room he lives in, she is shaken. She cannot understand why someone living like this would give money to her family. Raskolnikov looks at her too to society. Sonia is a fallen woman, but to him, she is a mirror. She has also been pushed to the edge by life. She has also crossed a line that society condemns, but she is completely different from him. Sonia sacrificed herself. Raskolnikov sacrificed other people. That is the deepest difference between them. Later, Lushin meets Dunya and Raskolnikov's mother. He assumes these poor women need him so he can behave like a benefactor, but Dunya is not weak. When she sees the conflict between Lushin and her brother, she says that if they cannot reconcile, she will have to choose between them. Lushin panics, then Raskolnikov exposes another lie. Lushin had written that Raskolnikov gave his mother's hard-earned money to a disreputable woman, meaning Sonia. In reality, Raskolnikov had given money to Marmeladov's widow. And he barely knew Sonia at the time. Lushin wrote it that way to turn the family against Raskolnikov and to smear Sonia. Dunya finally sees his hypocrisy. The engagement collapses. Lushin is driven out again. At this point, Razumikin offers a practical plan. They can survive by translating and publishing work. He will help Dunya and her mother. The family can slowly rebuild itself in a way. Razumikin represents the ordinary but decent path. It is not glamorous. It does not instantly fix everything. It does not make a person feel superior, but it is real. It is honest. It can be walked one step at a time. Raskolnikov, however, can no longer walk that road. He suddenly speaks as if he is saying goodbye forever. He tells Razumikin to take care of his mother and sister. Then he leaves. Razumikin follows him into the hallway. Raskolnikov looks at him and says, in effect, do not ask me anything anymore. I have no answers. You can abandon me, but do not abandon them. At that moment, Razumikin sees something terrible in his friend's eyes. Sometimes friends do not need evidence to understand that something irreversible has happened. After leaving his family, Raskolnikov goes to Sonia's room. Her room is just as poor as his, low, irregular, dark, with miserable furniture and walls that seem to absorb suffering. He sits down and begins questioning her with almost cruel intensity. What will happen if her stepmother dies, what will happen to the children? What if Sonia gets sick and ends up in the hospital? What if her younger sister is forced onto the same path? Sonia is in agony. She covers her head and keeps saying no, God would not allow it. Raskolnikov answers coldly. What if there is no God? That sentence cuts into her. She cannot refute him with philosophy. She can only cry, but her crying is not weakness. It is the pain of someone whose faith has been violated. Then Raskolnikov notices a copy of the New Testament on the table. He asks Sonia to read the story of Lazarus. At first, her voice trembles, then it grows stronger. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days, but he is called out of the tomb and returns to life. This story is not placed here by accident. It suggests that even if a person's soul has been dead, love, repentance, and faith may still call it back. Raskolnikov listens and something inside him is shaken. He tells Sonia that he has left his family from now on. He says he has only her. We are cursed. He tells her, let us go together. Sonia does not understand where he wants to go. He does not know either. He only feels that he and Sonia are somehow the same kind of person. In his mind, she has ruined her life, and he has ruined other people's lives. They are both trapped on the edge of society, both wrapped in suffering and sin. But he still does not see the most important difference. Sonia's suffering comes from love. His crime comes from pride. Before leaving, he tells Sonia that if he comes back the next day, he will tell her who killed Lizaveta. Sonia trembles. She seems to sense something, but she cannot believe it. What they do not know is that someone in the next room has been listening. That person is Fyodor. Fyodor is the man who once pursued Dunya. He is complicated and dangerous. He is immoral, cunning, indulgent, and selfish. But not merely a simple villain. He is capable of vile behavior, and yet he sometimes shows strange flashes of generosity. He has heard enough. Raskolnikov has not confessed yet, but Fyodor knows this young man is hiding something enormous. Meanwhile, the police pressure grows closer. The investigator handling the pawnbroker case is Porfiry Petrovich, one of the most fascinating characters in the novel. He is not a blunt detective who simply shouts questions and waves evidence. He is a psychological hunter. He circles his prey slowly, waiting for the suspect to expose himself. Raskolnikov goes to see Porfiry under the excuse of asking about his pawned items. On the surface, he is handling legal property. In reality, he wants to know how much the police know. But Porfiry has been waiting for him. He brings up an article Raskolnikov once wrote about ordinary and extraordinary people. Porfiry deliberately pushes the theory to its edge. Does Raskolnikov believe certain great people have the right to commit crimes, the right to shed blood, the right to sacrifice others for a higher goal? Raskolnikov is forced to explain. He says he is not claiming anyone can simply commit crimes whenever they want. He is saying that people who truly move history may, under extraordinary circumstances, have to step over obstacles. Such people are rare, and if they have a conscience, they must suffer for what they do. Porfiry keeps pressing. When Raskolnikov wrote this article, did he consider himself extraordinary? If an obstacle stood in his way, would he commit robbery or murder for the sake of his goal? This conversation seems philosophical, but every sentence is an interrogation. Raskolnikov becomes irritated. He knows Porfiry is testing him, but he cannot resist answering because the theory is his pride, and it is also the root of his guilt. The more he explains, the more it sounds like he is defending himself. Porfiry does not expose him. He smiles, wanders, asks circles, and lets Raskolnikov struggle inside his own language. That is what makes crime and punishment so tense. The suspense does not come from car chases or gunfire. It comes from psychology. An investigator and a murderer sit in a room, speaking almost politely, and every ordinary sentence could be fatal. Porfiry later mentions details from the day of the murder. He brings up Raskolnikov fainting at the police station. He mentions strange things Raskolnikov said to Zamyatov in a tavern. Raskolnikov finally explodes. If you think I killed them, he says, then accuse me directly. Porfiry refuses. He acts as if they are simply having a friendly conversation. That is more terrifying than an arrest, because Raskolnikov knows Porfiry suspects him. Porfiry knows Raskolnikov knows. Neither says it directly. Both wait for the other to break first. Just as the psychological trap is tightening, something unexpected happens. Nikolai, the painter, suddenly confesses to killing Eliona and Lizaveta. Porfiry does not truly believe the confession, but the fact that Nikolai confesses in front of Raskolnikov changes everything. Raskolnikov appears safe again. He leaves the police station with an almost sick kind of relief, but that relief does not last. Meanwhile, Marmeladov's funeral meal begins. Katerina Ivanovna is already ill with consumption, poor, exhausted, and mentally near collapse. To preserve one final scrap of dignity, she spends much of the money Raskolnikov gave her on the funeral meal. She wants people to see that even if her family is poor, they are not without honor. But the guests are mostly drunken tenants and miserable neighbors. None of the respectable people come. Katerina coughs, forces herself to host, and keeps talking about her family's former respectability and her current humiliation. The scene is both ridiculous and heartbreaking. Then Luzhin appears. After losing Dunya, Luzhin wants revenge. He wants to hurt Raskolnikov and restore his own image in front of Dunya and her mother. So he chooses the weakest possible target, Sonia. Before the funeral meal, he pretends to be charitable and gives Sonia 10 rubles. He repeatedly tells her not to tell anyone. Sonia innocently accepts it, thinking it is a donation. But at the meal, Luzhin suddenly accuses Sonia of stealing 100 rubles from him. The room goes silent. Sonia turns pale with terror. She takes out the 10-ruble note and says, "This is the money you gave me. I did not take anything else," but Luzhin keeps pressing. He claims that after Sonia left his room, a 100-ruble note disappeared from his table. Immediately, the eyes around her change. They become suspicious, harsh, and cruel. For Sonia, the accusation is almost fatal. Society already sees her as unclean. When a stigmatized person is accused, many people do not need evidence. They are ready to believe guilt before proof exists. Katerina explodes. She rushes to defend Sonia, insisting Sonia could never steal. Sonia is more likely to give money away than take it. To prove Sonia is innocent, Katerina turns out her pockets in front of everyone. Then a 100-ruble note falls out. Sonia is devastated. She sobs that she did not take it, but her voice is too weak for people who already wanted to judge her, just as the room's cruelty begins to swallow her. Luzhin's roommate, Andrei Lebeziatnikov, steps forward. He says he saw Luzhin slip the money into Sonia's pocket himself. Luzhin thought he was drunk or not paying attention, but he saw everything. The truth comes out. Raskolnikov also speaks up and explains Luzhin's motive. Luzhin wanted to frame Sonia, take revenge on Raskolnikov, and create a scandal that would turn Raskolnikov's family against him, giving Luzhin a way back into their favor. Luzhin's mask collapses. He leaves in disgrace. This scene is important because it shows that real ugliness does not always look ugly. Luzhin is well-dressed, educated, respectable, and full of talk about morality and order, but to protect his own ego, he is willing to destroy a defenseless young woman. Sonia, who society looks down on, is morally cleaner than almost anyone in the room after the disaster at the funeral meal. Katerina Ivanovna collapses completely. Already sick and humiliated, she runs into the streets, trying to appeal to officials and force recognition of her dignity. She is rejected, falls apart, and soon dies. Sonia loses another support. The weight of that broken family now falls almost entirely on her, and it is then that Raskolnikov returns to her. This time, he does not circle around the truth. He confesses. He tells her, "I killed the old woman. I killed Lizaveta too." Sonia is so horrified she can hardly breathe. But she does not step away from him. She does not scream. She does not curse him. She looks at him and weeps. Her tears do not mean, "How could you commit such a crime?" They mean, "How could you destroy yourself like this?" That does not mean she excuses the murder. Sonia knows murder is murder. Sin is sin. But she can also see that Raskolnikov's soul is already suffering inside his guilt. He is not a proud villain enjoying evil. He is a man being crushed by the thing he has done, even after confessing. Raskolnikov keeps talking about his theory. He says he did not kill for money. He wanted to know whether he was merely a louse or whether he had the right to step over the line. He wanted to prove he was extraordinary, but by the end of his own explanation, even he understands. He did not become Napoleon. He killed 2 women. Sonia gives him a simple answer, confess. She tells him to go to the crossroads, bow down, kiss the earth he has defiled, and say to everyone, "I have killed." That demand sounds humiliating, but it is actually the only path out. Raskolnikov's deepest problem is not only that he has evaded the law, it is that he has evaded the truth. He does not want to admit he is guilty. He would rather imagine himself as a failed genius than admit he is simply a man who committed a crime. The first step toward redemption is saying the truth out loud, but human beings do not change just because someone tells them the correct thing to do. Raskolnikov continues to waver. He fears punishment. He cannot accept that his theory has failed, and beneath it all, he still has a strange pride. He feels less sorry for killing than ashamed that he was not strong enough to bear the consequences. While he is trapped in that hesitation, Svidrigailov moves closer. This man knows Raskolnikov's secret, and he knows Dunya is Raskolnikov's weakness. Svidrigailov does several things that look generous. He provides money for Katerina's children. He promises to arrange for them to be cared for. He gives money to Sonia on one level. He really does help. But at the same time, he uses Raskolnikov's crime to pressure Dunya. He tells Dunya that he knows her brother is a murderer. If she comes away with him, he can help hide the truth or even arrange for Raskolnikov to escape. It is control in its ugliest form. Dunya comes prepared with a pistol. When Svidrigailov corners her, she raises it and warns him. At first, he does not believe she will fire. Then she does. The bullet grazes him. In that moment, he finally understands that this woman would rather risk everything than belong to him. Dunya later drops the pistol, but she does not change her answer. She tells him clearly that she will never agree. Svidrigailov lets her go. This moment is complicated. He has not suddenly become good. Rather, for one instant, he sees the failure of his entire life. He has chased pleasure, manipulation, and power, believing money and pressure could buy anything. Dunya's refusal shows him that some things will never be his. That night, he wanders through the low parts of St. Petersburg. He visits cheap entertainment houses. He ends up in a shabby hotel. He leaves money for his young fiancée. He leaves money and bonds for Sonia. He arranges a few final matters. Then at dawn, he kills himself with a pistol. Svidrigailov's death becomes a dark mirror held up to Raskolnikov. Here's another guilty man, another man dragged by desire and emptiness. Svidrigailov does some good things, but he never truly repents. He sees his own emptiness, but he cannot find a reason to live differently. Raskolnikov now has to choose, will he keep running until darkness swallows him too? Or will he admit his guilt and walk into pain that may still contain light? Finally, his defenses collapse. First, he goes to see his mother. She does not know the full truth, but she senses something terrible in him. She loves him. She worries over him, yet she can no longer reach him. Raskolnikov looks at her and feels the terrible weight of what he has brought into the family. Then he goes to Dunya. Dunya already knows. She does not curse him. She does not abandon him. She embraces him and says that if he chooses to suffer for what he has done, perhaps that already cancels half the crime. She does not mean punishment erases murder. The dead do not return. The deed cannot be undone. She means that a willingness to bear the consequences proves that something in him is still alive. Finally, he goes to Sonia. Sonia seems to have been waiting. He says, I have come for the cross. Sonia takes out 2 crosses, one of cypress wood and one of copper. She makes the sign of the cross over herself and over him, then hangs one around his neck. There are no grand speeches in this moment, but it is heavier than any speech could be. The cross means that from this point on, he cannot treat suffering merely as an insult from fate. He must treat it as the road he has to walk. Raskolnikov leaves and goes to the square. Sonia had told him to go to the crossroads, kneel, kiss the earth, and tell everyone that he is killed. He actually kneels, he bends down and kisses the dirty ground. People laugh at him, they think he is drunk, they think he is crazy. But for him, that no longer matters. A man who has spent the whole novel protecting himself with pride finally lowers himself in front of everyone. He wants to shout, I'm a murderer, but the words do not fully come out. Still, he continues toward the police station. Even there, he hesitates for a moment. The officer's manner is ordinary. It seems possible to postpone the confession again, but as he is leaving, he sees Sonia standing in the distance watching him. So he turns back and he says it. He says he killed the old pawnbroker and her sister. At last, everything is over. No more accurately, something else is beginning. The legal process moves forward. Raskolnikov explains the motive, the method, and where he buried the stolen goods. He says poverty, desperation, pride, and frustration drove him. He wanted the money, yes, but he also wanted to prove he could cross a moral boundary. The court considers several factors: his confession, his unstable mental state, the fact that he did not use the stolen goods, his illness, and his long condition of poverty. He is sentenced to 8 years of hard labor in Siberia, but that sentence is not the end of the story. In an ordinary crime novel, once the murderer is sentenced, the plot is finished. But Dostoevsky is not mainly interested in the legal ending. He is interested in whether a soul can come back to life. Raskolnikov does not appeal. He understands that this is what he has to bear. Sonia has already made her decision too. Using the money Svidrigailov left her, she prepares to follow the prisoners to Siberia. She does not make a dramatic speech. She does not force him to promise anything. The two of them do not even need to talk much about it. They both know she will go. That is Sonia's power. She does not prove love with beautiful language. She proves it by staying back in St. Petersburg. Dunya and Razumikin begin a life together. They eventually marry. The wedding is quiet, but it contains a simple hope. Razumikin plans to work hard, save money, and maybe one day go to Siberia to be near Raskolnikov. Raskolnikov's mother, however, collapses under the weight of what has happened. She never truly survives the truth. Not long after her son is sent away, she dies. This is another lesson of the novel. Guilt never punishes only the guilty. One person's crime spreads like ink in water, staining everyone who loves him. In Siberia, Raskolnikov begins his hard labor, but at first he does not truly repent. This is important. Many people think confession automatically means remorse. It does not. Admitting the facts is not the same as surrendering the soul. Raskolnikov has told the truth and accepted punishment, but inside he still carries pride. He is silent and isolated. He refuses to connect with the other prisoners. He looks down on them, and they dislike him because they can feel that he does not see himself as one of them. Even with Sonia, he is often cold. She lives in town doing sewing work. She saves what she can, brings him tea, finds ways to help, and visits faithfully. She does not complain. She does not demand gratitude. She simply keeps appearing. Her love is not dramatic. It is stubborn. At first, Raskolnikov does not understand it. Sometimes he experiences her care as a burden. His body is serving the sentence, but his mind is still trapped in the old